Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 30th verse of the 11th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Atha Vishat Swabhavanam Sarvakamam Anuttamam Prasada Yatra Patninam Sahasrani Cha Shodasha. The meaning of this verse is, thereafter, the Lord entered his palaces, which were perfect to the fullest extent. His wives lived in them, and they numbered over 16,000. So, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, Lord Krishna had 16,108 wives, and for each and every one of them there was a fully equipped palace, complete with necessary compounds and gardens. Full description of these palaces is given in the 10th canto. All these palaces were made of the best marble stone. They were illuminated by jewels and decorated by curtains and carpets of velvet and silk, nicely bedecked and embroidered with gold lace. These things we can't even imagine in our present Yuga. The personality of Godhead means one who is full with all power, all energy, all opulences, all beauties, all knowledge and all renunciation. That's the meaning of the word Bhagavan. Full of 6 opulences. Therefore, in the palaces of the Lord, there was nothing wanting for fulfilling all desires of the Lord. The Lord is unlimited, and therefore his desires are also unlimited, and the supply is also unlimited. Everything being unlimited, it is concisely described here as Sarva Kamam. Sarva Kamam Anuttamam. Sarva Kamam. Full with all desirable equipment. Sarvakam. Now, in the 10th canto, there is a beautiful description of the palaces of Krishna. In the 69th chapter of the 10th canto, there is a description. When the great sage Narada heard that Lord Krishna had married 16,000 wives after he had killed the demon Narakasura, sometimes also called Bhaumasura, Narada was astonished that Lord Krishna had expanded himself into 16,000 forms and married these wives simultaneously in different palaces. So, being inquisitive as to how Krishna was managing his household affairs with so many wives, Narada, desiring to see these pastimes, set out to visit Krishna's different homes. So when Narada arrived in Dwarka, he saw gardens and parks full of various flowers of different colors, and orchards overloaded with a variety of fruits. Beautiful birds were chirping, and peacocks crowed delightfully. There were ponds full of blue and red lotus flowers, and some of these tanks were filled with varieties of lilies. The lakes were full of nice swans and cranes, and the voices of these birds resounded everywhere. In the city of Dwarka, there were as many as 900,000 great palaces. How many? 9 lakh palaces, built of first class marble, with gates and doors made of silver. The pillars of the houses and palaces were bedecked with jewels such as touchstone, sapphire, emerald, and the floors gave off a beautiful luster. Floor giving off luster, have you ever heard of this? The highways, lanes, streets, crossings, and marketplaces were all beautifully decorated. The whole city was full of residential homes, assembly houses, and temples, all of different architectural beauty. All this made Dwarka a glowing city. The big avenues, crossings, lanes, and streets, and also the thresholds of every residential house were very clean. On both sides of every path there were bushes, and at regular intervals there were large trees that shaded the avenues so that the sunshine would not bother the passerby. In this greatly beautiful city of Dwarka, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had many residential quarters. The great kings and princes of the world used to visit these palaces just to worship Lord Krishna. The architectural plans were made personally by Vishwakarma. Who is Vishwakarma? The engineer of the demigods. And in the construction of the palaces of Lord Krishna, he exhibited all of his talents and ingenuity. These residential quarters numbered more than 16,000, and a different queen of Lord Krishna resided in each of them. As many queens, so many palaces, one for each queen. The great sage Narada entered one of these houses and saw that the pillars were made of coral and the ceilings were bedecked with jewels. The walls as well as the arches between the pillars glowed with decorations made of different kinds of sapphires. Throughout the palace were many canopies made by Vishwakarma that were decorated with strings of pearls. All this is a factual description. This is not somebody's imagination. This is not some mythology. Because the Lord is full of all opulences. So what is surprising if his palaces are so beautifully decorated. The chairs and other furniture were made of ivory and bedecked with gold and diamonds, and jewel lamps dissipated the darkness within the palace. The material nature by constitution is dark, but when there is a need of a light source, the Lord's palace was illuminated by jeweled lamps, the jewels which emit light. There was so much incense and fragrant gum burning that the scented fumes were coming out of the windows. The peacock sitting on the steps became illusioned by the fumes, mistaking them for clouds, and began dancing jubilantly. It was so beautiful. The smoke coming out of the windows seemed like clouds for their peacocks. sitting on the windows. And they were dancing very jubilantly. There were many maidservants, thousands and thousands of maidservants in each palace. And all of them were decorated with gold necklaces, golden bangles, and beautiful saris. There were also many manservants, nicely dressed in cloaks and turbans and jeweled earrings. Beautiful as they were, the servants were all engaged in different household duties. So, this is just to give us an idea what is the kind of opulence of the Supreme Lord. You cannot compare it with opulence of the richest person in this entire creation, material creation. Of course, in the spiritual world, the Lord enjoys with all his devotees, all the devotees. He shares his opulences. Nobody there is bereft of any need, necessity. To serve the Lord, they have everything that they simply desire, because there are desire trees in the spiritual world. But even when Krishna appeared on this earth planet, he brought down his opulence. His abode descended. Dwarka Dham, Mathura Dham, Vrindavan Dham descended with Krishna. And naturally, these beautiful places were full of the opulences. This is just to attract the conditioned souls to prepare themselves to go to the spiritual world and live with Krishna as one of his associates in a loving relationship. Each one of us is God with Krishna. Krishna wants to attract us. Why are you suffering in this material world? Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This material world is filled with miseries. It's the nature of this material world. We don't belong here. Foolishly, ignorant people may think that even if there are miseries, let me make adjustment and learn to live and try to enjoy the pleasures available in this world, the material pleasures available. But Bhagavad Gita says material pleasures are not real pleasures. They are simply due to some sense contact producing some sensation, and it is wrongly interpreted as material pleasure, but actually it is simply a different kind of distress. It is filled with distresses, this material existence, and different kinds of distresses are interpreted. Or if there is a relief from some distress, that is thought of as happiness, pleasure, material pleasure. So we are entitled to pure spiritual bliss of the kind that Krishna enjoys with his associates. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is inviting, come to me, live with me, enjoy with me. And that too in a loving relationship. Krishna is one. The living entities are countless. But that doesn't mean that Krishna is unavailable for some insignificant living being. No. Krishna is available for each and every living being in the spiritual world. Why spiritual world? Even the material world. He has expanded as Paramatma in the heart of each one of us. He is available for each one of us, even in the material world. But material world, it's not direct. The spiritual world, it is direct relationship, directly available. So Krishna invites us, please come to the spiritual world. And simply by chanting Hare Krishna and perfecting our devotional service, we can immediately transfer ourselves to the spiritual world. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.